Think for a moment. If working hard was enough to get rich, workers would be the new billionaires. But they are not. They work from sunrise to sunset, face traffic, pressure, late bills, and still, they end the month in the red. The problem was never a lack of effort. The problem is that we were taught to play the wrong game. Since we were little, we have been programmed with a unique script. Study, get good grades, get a good job, work for 40 years, retire, and enjoy life. But stop and observe what happens to those who follow this path to the letter. Most retire, with fear, illness, and bills to pay. Where is the promised wealth? Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, broke this cycle of illusion when realizing the brutal difference between what the poor father taught, stability, diplomas, employment, and what the rich father showed in practice, freedom, assets, strategy. While one accumulated titles, the other accumulated income. And the difference was in a single word: assets. Do you know what a real asset is? An asset. It's not a car in the garage, nor a diploma on the wall, much less a nice position in the company. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket even while you sleep. It's what keeps paying you even when you stop working. And that's where the transformation begins. Most people spend their entire lives running after a salary. They work to pay bills, pay debts, pay bills. But they never stop to build something that generates income in a continuous and intelligent way. They are always at the bottom of the system, financing the luxury and freedom of those who have learned to use money the right way. Those who do not have assets pay for the assets of others. While you finance a car, the bank makes a profit. While you pay rent, the property owner gets rich. While you buy a product, someone else profits from that sale. The question is, when will you be on the right side of this equation? The answer is here now. In this video, we will reveal the 5 assets that, according to Robert Kiyosaki, take anyone out of the rat race, even if she's starting with little or nothing. These are real, accessible, proven assets. And most importantly, they are within your reach. But before getting into the assets themselves, you need to understand that nothing will work if your mentality remains the same, because the real enemy of your financial freedom, it's not the government, not inflation, not your boss. It's the way you think about money. You were trained to be a consumer, not an investor. He was trained to seek security, not freedom. He was conditioned to see money as an end, and not as a tool to build something bigger. Robert Kiyosaki learned from his rich dad that the secret to wealth begins with a change in perception. Money is not the goal. It's just the result of a good strategy. The first step to getting out of poverty is understand how money moves. And this wisdom is not in schools, nor in the news, nor in the promises of politicians. It is in whose hands study the real game and play to win. School taught you to be a good employee, but he never taught you how to control your own money, generate passive income, create a business, choose good investments. He never taught you how to get out of the rat race. On the contrary, he conditioned you to run in it forever. But today that changes, because now you have in your hands the map that the rich have been using for decades, the knowledge they never spread to the masses, and what can free you forever if you decide to apply. And here's the commitment. By the end of this video, you will have in mind exactly which 5 assets took Robert Kiyosaki out of mediocrity and put him on the road to financial freedom. And more. You will know how to apply them to your own reality. But be careful. What we are going to show can shock, confront, and even irritate those who are still stuck in old beliefs. Because the truth hurts before it sets you free. But if you stay here with me, you will understand that you never again need to live in fear of losing your job, in fear of bills, in fear of old age. Because there are real, accessible, and proven paths. The question is, are you going to continue betting on a paycheck that barely pays your bills? Or will you finally take control and build something that truly supports you? Stay with me. The first asset is arriving, and it has the power to turn the key to your financial life forever. You might lose a job, you may lose money, you may even lose a business. But there is something that, once acquired, no one takes away from you anymore. applied knowledge. This is the first and most powerful asset that took Robert Kiyosaki out of the rat race and can do the same for you. But be careful. We are not talking about any knowledge. We are talking about someone who is capable of generating income, transforming decisions, and opening doors where there were only walls before. And that's why Kiyosaki always repeated, the difference between a rich person and a poor person is what they do in their free time. While some spend the day distracted, caught up in social networks, series, and gossip, others are learning about cash flow, about assets, about business, about investments. Some are sinking even deeper into the rat race. Others are coming out of it with speed. And the most incredible thing is that this type of knowledge has never been so accessible. You don't need an expensive university. You don't need an MBA costing 200,000 raise. You need direction, focus, and decision. You need to want to learn what really changes the game. Practical and applied financial education. Robert Kiyosaki was never the brilliant student of traditional schools. He wasn't the type to get straight A's on theory tests, but he was a keen observer. He paid attention to his rich dad's conversations. I watched how he talked about money, about opportunities, about assets, and from there, he started studying on his own. But not to get good grades, to achieve freedom. He read books about investing while his friends spent money on parties. He listened to stories of failure and overcoming with the same attention, learned that failure teaches more than theory, and he understood that knowledge only becomes active when it is put into practice. There is no point in reading 50 books and not applying anything. There's no point watching 100 videos and not changing your decisions. The real asset is born when you transforms knowledge into action. And why is this the first asset? Why he is the foundation of all others. Without it, you don't understand what you're doing. You don't know where to invest. You don't know how to protect yourself. You don't know how to grow. And he ends up being manipulated all the time by those who know. Anyone who doesn't master the basics of money is easily deceived. Buy what you don't need. Get into unpayable debts. Fall into traps that promise a quick return, but suck out what's left of hope. Meanwhile, those who have applied knowledge navigate with confidence, even in difficult times. Do you know what cash flow is? Do you know the difference between an asset and a liability? Do you know what ROI is? Do you know how tax on your investments works? No? So you're losing money every day, and you don't even realize it, because the system loves those who don't understand. But the good news is that changes now. If you invest time, not money time, in learning the fundamentals of financial education, you will realize that the game changes completely. You stop being commanded and starts to command. You stop being reactive and start being strategic. You get out of working to pay bills and into making your money work for you. This is where it all starts. Robert Kiyosaki semper dis. True freedom begins when you stop depending on your salary and start depending on your mind. And your mind, my friend, it's your biggest asset. It is with this that you choose where to invest, when to retreat, when to scale, when to pivot. It is with her that you see opportunities where others only see crises. It's how you build your empire. Even if it starts with just a few dollars and an old cell phone, you are here. Are you listening to this? And that already puts you ahead of 90% of the population, that you haven't even started thinking about money the right way yet. But you need to follow, need to apply. You need to turn this into concrete action. Want a simple exercise? Take a notebook now and answer. What do you know today about money that your family never taught you? What was the last financial decision you made based on real knowledge, not instinct or fear? How much of your time do you invest weekly in learning about finances, assets, investments, business? The answers will show you exactly where your biggest bottleneck is, and they will point to the way out of the rat race. Applied knowledge is the single asset that generates the others. It is what will give you the basis to buy real estate, invest in shares, create businesses, develop digital products, or even protect your wealth with commodities. It all starts here. It all starts now. But it only starts for those who are willing to take the next step. Your financial freedom. It's not a matter of luck. It's a matter of choice. And what you do with this knowledge you just received defines everything. Stay with me. In the next part, we will dive into second asset that built Kiyosaki's fortune, and it could be the missing piece of your puzzle. Imagine waking up in the morning, looking at your cell phone, and realizing that your bank account has grown. Without you having to punch in, without depending on a boss, no fear of being fired. This is not fantasy. It is reality for those who have learned to create sources of income outside the traditional system. This was the second asset that changed Robert Kiyosaki's life. Have your own business, but be careful. We're not talking about becoming a giant businessman overnight. We're talking about taking control of your own source of income. We are talking about independence. Kiyosaki learned early on that a paycheck is a temporary comfort and a prison in disguise. He saw his poor father fired, even after years of dedication, and it taught him that no matter how much you earn as an employee, the decision-making power is never yours. On the other hand, when you build a business, however small, you reverse the logic. You stop selling time and start selling value. You create something that over time can function without you. A system, a structure, an asset. Kiyosaki started small, washed cars, sell products, made mistakes, and every mistake was a practical lesson. Every failure was a step up. And this is where one of the most ignored lessons of traditional education comes in. The courage to make mistakes is part of financial intelligence. And maybe you're wondering, but I don't have the capital to open a business, or I have no idea what to undertake. And the answer is simple. You don't need to start big. You need to start smart. How many people do you know who make amazing cakes, who sew clothes perfectly, who have a gift for fixing something, teaching something, organizing something, but are stuck in a job that pays poorly? This happens because they were never told that skills can become businesses. Robert Kiyosaki says that an entrepreneur's greatest asset is not the product, it's the mindset. It's understanding that money doesn't just come from selling something. It comes from solving problems, to make life easier for others, to create value where previously there was only need. You don't need a company with headquarters in CNPJ to get started. Need a solution, something simple that works, that can be tested. May it grow, and most importantly, that you control it. Because here's the truth no one tells. Own business is the only job where you can be promoted every day, where your earnings are capped only if you accept one, where your efforts build a legacy, not just a month of paid bills. What's more, having a business forces you to develop skills that no diploma can provide. You learn to negotiate, communicating, leading, making difficult decisions, thinking like an owner, not a part of the machine. Robert Kiyosaki semper dice. You only truly understand money when you start earning, spending, and losing your own. That's where the magic happens. This is where you stop blaming the system and start dominating it, and you don't have to do it alone. Today, there are tools, mentoring, content, social networks, platforms. Everything that was once expensive and distant is now just a few clicks away from you. What is missing is not opportunity. What's missing is courage. Courage to step out of your comfort zone, to stop seeking security where there is no freedom. Courage to make mistakes and learn. Courage to start something that is yours. May it represent you, that builds real assets over time. And do you know which is the best? Well-structured businesses don't just generate income. They become asset machines. Every satisfied customer is an asset. Every automated system is an asset. Every product created, every process adjusted, every person well-trained. All of this is accumulated value that works for you. While you sleep, while you travel, while you spend time with your family. This is what Kiyosaki meant when he taught that business is assets, because they can grow even when you are far away. And if you think it's too late, think again. What is more difficult, starting now or continuing for another 10 years in the same place? It doesn't matter your age, your training, or your condition. What matters is your vision, your discipline, your willingness to learn and apply. Kiyosaki didn't start out as a billionaire. He started washing cars. What made the difference? He turned every experience into a learning experience. each knowledge in application, and each application in freedom. Now it's your turn. Take a piece of paper and write down, what problems can I solve with what I know? What do I already do well that can become a product or service? What is the next simple step I can take to build something of my own? These answers may seem simple, but they are the beginning of a new life. In the next part, we will dive into one of the most powerful and tangible assets, real estate, and discover how Kiyosaki turned rent into freedom, and how you can get started, even without a lot of capital. Imagine a situation. While you are sleeping, traveling, or simply resting at home, money enters your account without you lifting a finger. Does this seem far from your reality? Well, know that this is exactly how the rich think and act. That's what Robert Kiyosaki discovered when he understood the power of income real estate. He wasn't interested in beautiful houses, luxurious swimming, pools, or a prime location just to show status. What he was looking for was a simple question. Does this property pay me every month? The poor father was excited about having his own house. I thought owning a residence was a sign of success. But rich dad taught otherwise. A property that only generates expenses is not an asset. It's passive, and if he takes money out of your pocket every month, he traps you. He doesn't free you. The first time Kiyosaki bought a rental property, he didn't have much capital. But there was something even more valuable: financial education, courage, and strategy. He studied the region, understood the flow of the neighborhood, negotiated well, renovated intelligently, and rented quickly. The most incredible? The rental value was greater than the value of the installment. In other words, the tenant was paying for his assets to grow. This was a key turning point. He wasn't buying a roof. He was buying income. I was creating an asset that worked every day, including on holidays. It did not demand his time, nor his daily presence, nor his physical strength. It just needed to be well structured and managed. That's what true real estate investing is all about. It's not about waiting for appreciation, hoping that in a few years the square meter will increase. This is speculation. Wealth is built with predictability, with flow, with recurring return. Kiyosaki learned that every rental property is like a silent employee, one who doesn't complain, doesn't ask for a raise, doesn't take vacations. Just deposit money into your account, month after month. Over time, he multiplied these sources, creating a true passive income network. And with each new acquisition, his freedom increased. But here's a warning. Most people invest poorly in real estate. They buy expensive properties to rent cheaply. They choose the wrong neighborhoods, ignore contracts, and don't study the tenant's profile. And then they get frustrated. They think that there is no return, when the problem is actually in strategy, or lack thereof. Kiyosaki himself says that investing in real estate requires technical knowledge, but it doesn't have to be complicated. You just need to understand that real estate is a tool. And like any tool, they need to be used correctly to work. Is location important? Yes. But the profile of the property and the tenant are even more important. A well-crafted contract is worth more than a painted wall. A simple property in a region with constant demand can generate much more income than a luxury apartment in an upscale, saturated neighborhood. Furthermore, there is something even more powerful about this type of asset: the leverage. Kiyosaki used the bank's money to buy properties that generated more than he paid for. As a result, he created assets using third-party resources. He didn't use all of his own money. He multiplied what he had through intelligence. Maybe you're asking yourself, but I don't even have the money for a down payment. So listen to this. Start with knowledge. Today there are books, videos, training, and platforms that are accessible. Learning about real estate funds can be the first step. Studying financing, negotiation, leasing, legislation. All of this is free on the internet. What is missing is not opportunity, it's focus. What traps people most in poverty isn't the lack of pay, it's the lack of assets that work for them. Wealth isn't about earning a lot, it's about earning even when you're not working. And well-chosen properties are masters in this role. Imagine having 3, 5, 7 properties generating 2 minimum wages per month each. This may seem like a dream now, but with study, discipline, and long-term vision, it becomes a perfectly achievable plan. And most importantly, it's a plan that doesn't depend on anyone but you. Remember, the difference between those who get rich and those who remain stagnant, it's the type of income you build. While most rely on a single source, the rich build multiple, and real estate is one of the most solid pillars for this. Robert Kiyosaki never saw real estate as an end, but as a means of creating freedom, to expand, to invest in new opportunities safely, to live without fear of tomorrow. And if you think you need to be a millionaire to start, remember, Kiyosaki started with little. You can too. In the next part, we will talk about an even more accessible and surprising asset, shares that pay dividends. A practical, scalable, and growing way to generate passive income, even if you've never invested before. Imagine the following. You wake up, drink your coffee in peace, open the bank app and see an amount credited there. It wasn't a salary, it wasn't a client, it wasn't luck. It was a deposit from the company of which you are a partner. That's dividends. And get paid just for owning part of the business. And here's the big shift in mentality. The true investor does not live by buying and selling shares, lives off the fruits generated by solid companies. Robert Kiyosaki learned from his rich father that shares are extremely powerful assets when used intelligently. But it's not about speculating. It's not about guessing the market. It's about owning businesses you know, understand, and trust. Most people still think that stocks are gambling, that you buy cheap and sell expensive. But the rich, those who understand the game, know that the real money is in recurring passive income. They buy good companies that distribute their profits to shareholders in the form of dividends. You know that giant bank? That energy company that won't close? Those sanitation, insurance, telecommunications companies? These are what Kiyosaki calls market dairy cows. Every month, every quarter, every year, they distribute part of their profits, and if you're a member, you get paid. Point. At first, it's not much. Cents. Then real. Then hundreds. But as you reinvest, these values grow like a snowball. It's the effect of compound interest working for you while you live. And the beauty of this strategy is that she doesn't demand millions to start. With a modest amount and consistency, you can build your dividend portfolio. Kiyosaki always taught, the secret is in repetition, not in the initial value. Start small, but think big. It also highlights the importance of reinvest profits. When the dividend falls into the account, the common investor spends it. The intelligent investor reinvests. Buy more shares. Increase your slice of the pie. And with that, the next payment increases. This cycle repeats itself and accelerates the growth of passive income. Robert Kiyosaki shows that this is one of the most accessible ways to escape the rat race. Because here, you don't trade time for money. You put money in to generate more money. But be careful. It's not about choosing just any company. You need to understand the business, evaluate the numbers, view dividend payment history, observe whether it grows over time, whether it is solid, whether it has good management. And that's not difficult. Everything is public, available. You just need to want to learn. You don't need to be a financial analyst. You just need to have a real interest in building something of your own. If you know how to choose half a dozen good companies and are patient, you may have an early retirement, financed by dividends. Think about it with me. What is the difference between someone who receives dividends every month and someone who depends exclusively on their salary? Freedom, autonomy, time, tranquility, and that changes everything. Kiyosaki compares dividends to renting property. It is money that drips regularly, without your physical presence, but with even fewer complications. You don't need to visit the asset. You don't need to fix anything. You don't have to deal with a tenant. The company does everything. You just collect the fruits. And with continuous reinvestment, this income will multiply over time. But why don't most people do this? Out of ignorance, out of fear, for believing in financial market myths, for hearing that investing is risky. And this is exactly what keeps people trapped in the system. Kiyosaki is not against work. He is against addiction. He argues that you use your work as a springboard to build freedom. And dividend stocks are one of the most effective ways to do this. When you learn to buy dividend-paying stocks, you stop chasing money, and money starts chasing you. And this is one of the biggest secrets that the rich know and apply. It's not about getting rich overnight. It's about creating an automatic, predictable, and safe income generation system. And remember, you don't need to be rich to invest. You need to invest to be rich. Even if you start small, the important thing is to start. Just a few dollars a month will get you on your way, and discipline over time makes the magic happen. In the next part, we will reveal the fifth and final asset, one of the most surprising, underrated, and powerful: digital content as a passive income generator in the modern era. An asset that works while you sleep, travel, or live your life. Imagine creating something once and getting paid for it dozens, hundreds, or thousands of times. Imagine recording a video, writing an ebook, building an online course, and while you sleep, this material continues to be sold, generating income, connecting with people, transforming lives, and transforming yours too. That's the power of digital content, one of the most undervalued assets, and at the same time one of the most democratic, scalable, and profitable in the new economy. Robert Kiyosaki understood this early. When did you release your book? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he did not imagine the global impact it would have. But what started as an idea, a piece of content, became an empire. Not just because of book sales, but because that content multiplied. It became courses, lectures, franchises, digital products, all derived from a single knowledge transformed into content. Here's the secret: content is active. If you create something that teaches, inspires, or solves a problem, that something can be monetized, can be sold. It can spread around the world while you go about your business. And the beauty of that? You don't need to be famous or an expert or have millions to start. You just need to master something. Anything. As long as it generates real value. People are making money by teaching how to make bread, organize finances, repair bicycles, take care of plants, edit videos. Applied knowledge became a product, and digital products became gold mines. Kiyosaki semper dice, if you want to, get rich, teach what you know, turn your knowledge into assets that pay off even when you're not there. This is one of the great differences of digital content. It is scalable, a physical product you need to stock, package, deliver. Not a digital product. It is created once and delivered infinitely, with near zero cost and global reach. What's more, it's affordable. Publishing an ebook can cost less than a pizza. Recording a course can be done with a cell phone and a computer. What it requires is not money. It is will, vision, and action. But why is this still a secret to most? Because we were taught to think in a limited way, believing that only great authors, only publishers, only famous YouTubers can make money with content. But that's not true. The internet has democratized access, and whoever understands this gains absurd advantage. Robert Kiyosaki did just that. He took an idea, organized his knowledge, packaged it into content format, and distributed it. Result? It has become a worldwide phenomenon. And what does this prove? What well-positioned content? It has more power than 1,000 hours of hard work. And you don't have to start big. Start with an idea, a post, a video, a PDF. Start with what you know how to do. Test, validate, improve, scale, and soon you will have created a digital asset, something that works for you. The most fascinating? Digital content is a multiplier. A single course can become parts of a book, excerpts from a lecture, chapters from a YouTube channel. One video can turn into 1,000 reels, shorts, podcasts, and each piece becomes active. Active that educates, asset that attracts, asset that sells, asset that pays, and even more, it is an asset that builds authority. When you create content, you stop being just a consumer and become a reference. You become an authority in your field, and authority sells, attracts opportunities, open doors, multiplies earnings. This is the new mindset. Content is the new capital, and it is not limited. He is not tied to a physical space. It does not depend on stock or boss. It depends on you understanding that applied knowledge is worth more than workforce. Kiyosaki Diz. The rich don't just learn, they share what they learn. And this generates more wealth. For them, and for those who receive it. Now stop and think. What do you know today that you could teach? What have you experienced, learned, overcome, that can become content? Because the answer to getting out of the rat race could be right there, in transforming your story into value for others. And make no mistake, those who share value build heritage. Well-structured content can pay you back for years, decades, maybe for a lifetime. This is what Kiyosaki calls smart leverage. You don't need more hours in the day. You need assets that work while you live. And digital content is one of them, perhaps the most powerful in recent times. And here's a challenge. Don't just consume content. Start producing, even if small, even if imperfect, even if no one sees it at first. Because the more you create, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the more value you deliver. And the more value you deliver, the more income you generate. Now you know the 5 assets that Robert Kiyosaki uses to get out of the rat race and build financial freedom. In the next part, we'll tie everything together, how to apply these 5 assets in practice, even starting from scratch. Let's build together a clear, powerful, and actionable strategy for you to transform knowledge into assets and ideas into freedom. You've come this far. This alone places you among the few who chose to leave financial ignorance and enter a new level of consciousness. But knowledge alone does not change lives. Application? Yes. And now is the time to act. Let's recap what we learned. The 5 assets revealed by Robert Kiyosaki are more than just tools. They are the pillars of a life of freedom. They are the gears that move the wheel of real wealth. The first asset was own business. It teaches you to exchange dependence for autonomy. It doesn't matter if you start small, selling something simple. What matters is building something of your own that works for you, that generates value on an ongoing basis. A business is the foundation of your independence. The second asset was the properties for rent. Here, we learn the importance of predictable passive income. A property that is well purchased, well managed, and in a good location becomes a silent and reliable source of money. It's the kind of asset that works while you live. The third asset was the stocks that pay dividends. They are the evolution of salary. You stop depending on direct effort and start reaping the rewards of capital. They are part of the invisible army that pays you without asking for your time in return. The fourth asset were real estate funds, accessible, simple, and powerful. They allow anyone to participate in the large enterprise market without complications. They are ideal for those who are starting out and want consistency without the headache. And the fifth asset was digital content, the new frontier of freedom. An asset that you create once and sell many times. A bridge between knowledge and income. Scalable, multipliable, and accessible to everyone. Now you have the complete map. But what to do with it? You need to make a decision. Not tomorrow. Not next Monday. Now. Because every second that passes without action is a second that you remain in the rat race. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to leave. So here's the practical plan. Step 1. Choose an asset. Just one. Don't try to embrace everything at once. Choose the one that makes the most sense for your reality today. It could be starting a small business, investing 100 Rs in an FII, recording a video with your cell phone, or studying stocks that pay dividends. Step 2. Study like an obsessive. Get books, videos, mentoring. Empty your chest with haste and fill it with discipline. You don't have to be a genius. You just need to be consistent. Information is abundant, but application is rare. Step 3. Perform minimum viable. Don't wait to be ready. Start even with fear. Even small. The first rent, the first sale, the first cent of dividends. The important thing is to break the inertia. It unlocks your mind and strengthens your confidence. Step 4. Always reinvest. Whatever the profit, don't spend it. Plant again. Expand. Multiply. Growth comes from intelligent repetition. The rich do not increase their standard of living when they first earn money. They increase your assets. Step 5. Teach what you learn. This is gold. When you explain, you learn more. And by sharing, you position yourself as an authority. People pay a lot for guidance. And that turns into more assets, more income, more freedom. But above all, understand. This journey is mental before it is financial. There is no point in having assets if your mind remains poor. Poverty of mentality is the real prison, and you only get out of this with vigilance, focus, and persistence. You no longer need to chase money. Now it's money that can start chasing you. As long as you choose to apply what you learned here, you no longer need to sell your time for a promise of stability. Now you can build assets that pay you every month with or without direct effort. And mainly, you no longer need to live on autopilot. You have a choice, it has power, and now it has direction. The big question now is, are you going to close this tab and move on with your life as if nothing had changed? Or will you take advantage of this turning point and build something real, lasting, and yours? Most forget, the minority applies, and the winners build empires. If you choose to be among those who apply, type in the comments, "I choose my assets." If this script touched your spirit and gave you clarity, subscribe to the channel. Now, activate the bell, like this video, share with those who need to wake up, and most importantly, come back here in a month, check it out for yourself, see where you got to after taking the first step, because this is not the conclusion of a video. It's the beginning of your new life.